Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of the Campus Comics Cast. We just asked it again, everyone kind of bears with us as we are still sort of recording remotely here. Everybody's at home still. We are not back at the store recording yet. Maybe we'll get to do that again someday, we'll see. But the store is open, just so everybody knows, and we are located at 816 East Main Street, Suite B in Carbondale. We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 6. And the phone number, if you want to call first, is 618-457-6011. Or again, you can always look us up on Facebook or Twitter. And this is Dan. I'm there most Saturdays, and I'm joined this time by
Scott Reed,
Mike Atchison.
And we're all going to see each other this Saturday at the store, though, because we're having another mini-con. We're going to have some sales and things going on. We're going to have some different vendors. Scott, you're going to be there set up, right? Selling your wares. I don't know who all is coming yet, but we should have a couple more vendors there at least.
I've heard a rumor that it will be none other than Michael Atchison is going to join us for once on a Saturday. Yeah. He's not going to have something better to do.
He's not going to be golfing or.
Actually, I'm golfing later on that night. It's a glow ball tournament. Yeah, 8:00 at night playing golf in dark.
Have fun with your cosmic golf.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, okay, do you know officially what specials Mike Noe is going to be running this Saturday at the store?
I was totally going to ask him, and I forgot.
Okay.
But,
So then I guess you can't hold us to this, but I think he's going to do the same thing he did last time, right?
I believe so, but again, I haven't verified.
So I believe it's going to be 100 books out of the dollar boxes. I think, did he do $50 or $60? 60. Okay, and he's going to do the trade paperbacks for $3 and the hardcovers for $5.
Yeah, select ones. Not all of them in the store, but in a certain section we'll have that.
Yeah, not the evergreen ones for sure.
Yeah,
those are
not like the brand new stuff that just came out.
Yeah, but those are still 25% off. No,
I'm not sure. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then statues. What did you run on statues last time besides the select few? Was it 40 or 20?
Man, I want to say 40% off, but again,
20%, maybe more.
Yeah, we'll see. Or again, just make them a good offer. Who knows?
There you go. Yeah.
You can always try that at the store. That never hurts.
Yeah. And then, of course, he's got a selection of posters that he keeps adding to.
Yeah, we're carrying posters now. We're starting to get in, more and more of that. And we're getting some really good ones. People are liking it, so we're looking to kind of try some different things at the store, too. So, hopefully have some more new stuff in there soon.
So you should come join us 11 to, I didn't even look at what the end time was on that for this Saturday.
He told me 5, regular store closing time.
Okay.
So.
Well, store closes at 6, but again, get there early because everything gets picked over pretty quick when we do this. So we have some people at the big wallets come in sometimes and kind of clear up a bunch of stuff. So
yeah, and he wants some people like myself, for example. It takes me a little bit of time to get cleared out because usually he's ready to go that day by 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. That is usually the case.
So maybe that's why he told me 5, so I'm out of the way by 6.
Exactly. That's what it is. I mean, that way you get everything carried out. And...
So yeah, but yeah, or just in general, earlier the better. Early bird gets the worm at this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I've been spending the entire week grading and pricing and organizing, and I've got 4 short boxes ready to go. So probably have more later on this week.
Then we got Scott telling us what he's not going to sell us. He's been buying at yard sales.
That's right.
That's a torture.
Follow Scott online to see more of that.
Yeah. So had a good weekend. That's just all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, we've got some news this weekend, that's for sure.
Yep.
I guess it was Friday, we got the big announcement from the DC Universe app. So, what everyone's kind of been predicting is going to be happening at the beginning of the year. So it looks like they are rebranding to DC Universe Infinite. And so all the video content is going, or at least in the announcement, it says the original shows are going to be switching to HBO Max. So like Doom Patrol, which is already on there, Titans, we're getting another season of the Harley Quinn cartoon. So all these shows are going to be going to HBO Max now. Starting in January, there won't be any more video content on the DC Universe app. They are just going to be the comic books, and then they are keeping the community section, which is good because I know a lot of people are into that. I don't frequent it that much, but I know that there are some people that do. And I thought for sure that section would get the axe, but they're keeping that. So it's basically just going to be a comic reader app. And if you subscribe now, and if you watch stuff like how I watch it a lot is the Roku TV app I use. I think in December that's going to be gone. And you'll have to, I believe it looks like this will be a new app that you have to download. I'm not sure exactly how they're handling that transition, but I believe it looks like it's going to be something like that. But again, we're going to get more details, probably closer to when the changes are happening. But they did. Yeah.
Quick question. I read here that it's they're going to have a library of 24,000 books at launch.
They've already got that.
How much is that an expansion from?
It's not. I mean, that's basically what's on there now. It might be a little more. They have over 20,000 as is.
Oh, okay.
I think the last time they threw out a number, it was 22,000. So it's not much more than what's already on there. What they are changing, though, on the comic side, though, is they're saying, whereas it's always a year before comics show up on here, they're saying it's going to be 6 months, which I believe is what Marvel Unlimited does now. Mm-hmm. And then for some of the digital first material, like the Batman Gotham Knights and like the Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red book, it looks like it'll be 3 months before those end up on there. I saw a rumor that they're talking about adding Black Label content because none of that's on there now, but I haven't seen where that was announced, so that might just be a rumor. It'd be nice if it were on there. But I don't know if that's actually coming or not. It looks like the price point is staying the same, which I thought was weird. So it's $7.99 a month or $75 basically for a year.
And that's funny because Marvel's is $9.99 a month.
Yeah.
But it's $69 a year.
Right. But it's also an issue of why you're taking away content and charging me the same price.
Yep.
I feel like this would be a good way to a good opportunity to undercut Marvel Unlimited, maybe get some more people to sign up. But we'll see.
That's exactly why I asked that question, because to me, it's the availability of issues that I want to read that I can't read.
Right.
Because I don't have the issue. So.
Right. Yeah, there is some older stuff on there. They don't have everything yet. And as I go through and kind of read stuff, it seems to be what okay, so we'll take like Batman and Detective. So the first few dozens of issues are on there, but there's a gap. And then from a certain point it's everything. But I think it seems to kind of go along with their reprinting schedule. So like say the omnibus editions, like the Golden Age omnibus editions, it seems like a lot of that stuff is on there. But if it hasn't been collected in that stuff yet, it's not on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It seems like probably what they've gone back and recolored and that kind of thing. Like they have that stuff ready to go, but they don't have everything yet. Hopefully this turns into a thing where they just keep adding to it. Eventually we get everything or close to, we'll see.
That does concern me because that with all their cuts and staffing, one of the areas that they announced some pretty major cuts was like in their DC archive area. Yeah. Which is where all that recoloring and reproduction would come from. So it's got to really slow that down. But
again, it's just an asset they're sitting on if they don't do anything with this old content, so we'll see.
Marvel advertises 27,000 books, just as an FYI comparison.
Yeah. So. But again, both those numbers will just be growing over time, though. Uh-huh. So there's that. They've also said like when they can, they're going to do like I guess, subscriber events and stuff like that. What that means, what events are going forward, who knows? We'll kind of find out when it happens, I guess. Again, just weird time right now. Who knows what the future of comic conventions are, or what these kind of things will be. But yeah, that's kind of the big news with DC Universe. I just want to point out too, if you have DC Universe right now and you're wanting to watch some stuff, I'd watch it now.
Yeah.
HBO Max has already cycled off some DC content from when they launched that's not on there anymore. So again, they're not saying everything on here is just going to go right there. But even if it does, they're going to keep cycling stuff out like, everybody else does. Hopefully they don't do that with the comics anymore on DC Universe. Hopefully they just try to create more of an archive. But we'll see how that works out. Do you guys have anything else you want to bring up or any thoughts on that? Or
I just was reading through their press release that you've kind of gone through, and I guess if you want to add in HBO Max to your existing DC Universe bundle, you can do that for $4.99 a month for a limited time. It doesn't say how long that price.
And I found out the hard way, not if you already have a subscription to HBO Max.
Yeah.
That is for new subscribers only. So if you haven't, go ahead and do it. It's a cheap price. But I already had it, so I wasn't eligible to do that when they started doing that.
Yeah, and then I guess if you subscribe yearly, you get a $25 voucher to spend in the DC shop.
Yeah, if you have, whenever this rollover is, if you have a subscription, you will get a voucher. I think if you're monthly, you get a voucher too.
Yeah, annual subscribers will receive a $25 voucher. Monthly subscribers will receive a $10 voucher.
Yeah, so again, that something. But again, as long as they have a ton of DC comics on here, I'm gonna have this subscription. I want access to that stuff. I want to read. My thing is though too, a while back they had these contests for these new original shows that were supposed to be on DC Universe. Hasn't been a word about that in months, basically since everything got shut down. But there were 3 new shows they were supposed to be starting, and they look good. They look like good ideas. I was looking forward to these shows. Do they go to HBO Max? I doubt it. I bet we just don't hear about these anymore. Which is a shame because they seem like good ideas. I know, and there's a shop too on DC Universe. I don't know if that's going away. I don't know why it would necessarily. It's still a way to make money. It's a revenue stream.
It sounds like with the voucher that they're going to keep the shop.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. The other thing was they just last week kind of wrapped up the rewards program. Now there's still time to redeem your points, but there's barely anything to get, I think, right now. But they had mentioned before that this was a test for a larger rewards program that they were going to implement later. Again, I don't know if that's still happening because, again, Marvel has the Marvel Insider program where you get points from reading stuff or reading articles on their website or on Marvel Unlimited and different things. So I assume it was meant to be an equivalent to that. Whether or not that still happens going forward, who knows? We'll see, how that all plays out. But yeah, again, I'm a DC guy. It's a ton of DC books. I'm going to stick with it just because I want access to the books. So we'll see. I know, a lot of people have said I'm just going to wait and get HBO Max. I don't know. What do you guys think about all this?
Go ahead, Mike.
I can't fit in the time to watch the TV that I'd like to watch, so right. I probably wouldn't take advantage of having HBO Max for an extra $4.99. I would have rather had a bigger library of books to pick from. But then again, I don't know what all. Does HBO Max have more than just? Is there going to be content that is not DC Comics related?
It's HBO. Yeah, it's HBO with more stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that might make it worth it. Yeah.
There's I'm trying to think. What are the hubs? There's Looney Tunes. There's Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, Crunchyroll, which is the anime service. I know I'm forgetting some. Let me see if I can get it to come up real quick. Probably not. Yeah. But there's the different hubs. So yeah, it is definitely more than just DC stuff. It is HBO. Okay, so TCM, Sesame Workshop, Studio Ghibli are the others. So okay. And again, not a ton of stuff on the others. Again, presumably they'll add to that as it goes on, because there's definitely some more DC stuff I'd like to see on there, and Adult Swim and Cartoon Network. So, there's that. But again, it is HBO with more stuff.
The one series I want to watch or continue to watch because I've been watching it on Sci-Fi, is the Harley Quinn. So.
Yeah, well, again, that's on there. Or yeah. I'm not sure if it is right now or not.
It will be, it says, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I kept, at first I said, well, I'm going to get DC Universe as soon as they have an app on the Xbox.
Right.
And then they put an app on the Xbox, and I still didn't get it because it's like, okay, I'm going to wait for me to have a lull in things that I want to watch.
Right.
And I never have had that lull. Yeah.
Yeah, so Harley Quinn is on the HBO Max app. They have both seasons on there now.
I mean, what this is becoming is a video version of a comic read pile that I can never get to the bottom of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I have to somehow restrain myself, but it is tempting. So
at some point, I'm gonna make the plunge just for the access to the library of comics. Just whenever I had that wild, whim that I want to go back and read.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever. And I don't want to have to go track it down. I just want to read it because it's not something I care to add to my collection.
Right.
So at that point, I'll break down and pick it up.
Before you say anything, Dan, what do you guys think about? I mean, I know that's the standard is 6 month delay between digital and print, or print and digital, but is the hardest thing for me, I think, on the comic reading side is if it's something new, I don't like waiting, and I don't like waiting, for 6 months.
Right.
For me, it's a matter of ownership.
Yeah.
There are certain books that I want to own, and I they're just available digitally. I'm not. It's the same way with movies. It's like I want to own a physical copy of certain movies. So I don't care even if I can stream Black Panther on Disney Plus for the rest of my life. I own a copy of Black Panther just because I want to have that, ownership and that connection with that. And for me, it's the same way with comics. Is there are certain books that I want to there's a lot of books that I buy and then I buy them again digital because I'd rather read them digital but still own them physically.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
I'm double dipping often on books, physical and digital copies. So
yeah.
I would say ownership is part of it for me too. More so with comics, other media starting to get a little looser with that just because of space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially if I can get it on Vudu is on sale for $5 for some movie. It's like I don't necessarily have to have a Blu-ray of that. And it is also the lazier option too of like, oh, I don't have to get up and get this DVD and put it in the DVD player.
That is so true, Dan. I have caught myself I've done that same thing. I'm like, wait, to put in this movie, I have to get out of this chair, open up the case, and put it in the player.
I have to use
when did that become a problem?
My legs like a sucker. Come on. Well, the other thing for me right now is I recently moved. A lot of my stuff is in storage right now. I can't get to everything, physically like that. So,
oh my God,
that's part of it too.
Well, and I've had a couple of situations in the last few years where, like when the tornado came through Harrisburg, I didn't have power for 4 or 5 days. So there was no reading comic books online for me as an option. Yeah. So if I wanted to read a book, I had to have it, so.
Yeah.
And same way with
movies. That's one of the nice thing about comics too. It's like, during, after the May 8th storm, where power was out for so long, it's like, not a problem. I can still read comics.
Uh-huh.
I had other things going on then too, but
And then the other, I'll get off this, after this, but the other thing is when the content's all digital, that can actually be taken away from you at any time.
For sure.
So it's like
that was always my trepidation about Comixology for a long time too. Uh-huh. You are paying for this. I am paying for a copy, and some of that stuff's DRM free. Not all of it though. No. You know what I mean? So and what happens if that again, it's owned by Amazon now, but in theory, what if they go out of business? What happens to the content I have paid for? So.
Yeah,
but I feel like go ahead.
Steam is kind of what broke me from that on games. It's like,
okay.
I finally realized, like, okay, this game that I played in 2010, Might I want to play it again in 2021? Possibly, but probably not. So.
I've kind of had the opposite thing though with digital comics too. Actually, I just did this the other day. I read the Immortal Hulk. Was it Great Power? It's the Spider-Man Hulk one shot they did a while back, and I'm like, oh, I really like this. I want this book, so I bought the book. I've got the physical. I've done that several times with digital books.
Oh yeah, I've done the same thing.
Yeah, I've done that with Danger Club back in the day. The book from Image. I read the first one digitally. I went and found them, and I got it as it came out after that. But yeah, that's happens all the time. Or if you want to take a chance on something and you read it digitally, and you're like, oh, this isn't that good. Save yourself $4. Yeah,
exactly.
So kind of goes both ways.
All right, anything else to add on DC Universe?
Any of bring up? Yeah, again, I'm sure we'll hear more, as it gets closer to the time for the changeover on that. Oh, so do we want to talk about the new trailer that just dropped last night?
Absolutely.
So we've finally got another show coming on Disney Plus to watch.
Yeah.
The end of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So as we're recording this last night, the first trailer for WandaVision just dropped. Finally. What'd you guys think?
I liked it quite a bit. The first initial vibe I got from it felt like Watchmen. And I think it's more because of the music choice than anything else. Yeah. We've seen some of the trailer or some of the images from the set. There's a lot of black and white stuff. It looked like they were going to do like 50s and 60s and 70s throughout it, and that was still here in this trailer, which leads me to believe that we are going to get Wanda, crazy Wanda, I guess. She's going to be insane. So we're going to get kind of that. I don't know if it's going to go. It probably won't go quite as far as House of M, crazy, but we're gonna get at least some of that. I was surprised by some of the actresses that were in that I wasn't expecting to see. I hadn't really paid any attention to any announcements about who was going to be in there. But what was it? Catherine Hahn. She was the political advisor in Parks and Rec, and then I forgot her name, and I don't see her here on the list, but she was the mom in that 70s show.
Yeah.
Kat Dennings also in it.
Yeah, and she's, of course, reprising her role, right, from the Thor movies. So, but I think the trailer looks solid to me, so.
Yeah, I agree. It really had this, I think the first thing, you guys heard me say it because I just watched this right before we recorded, but it reminded me a little bit of the Doom Patrol, just a little bit of that wackiness. But also it reminds me of Bewitched, just the sitcom, the black and white, especially the early episodes.
Yeah, especially like where they have the little animation over him changing his face to like the more human looking face.
Yeah.
They have like the little sparkle animation thing over it real quick. That definitely reminded me of Bewitched right there.
Oh yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this.
Randall Park, who was in Ant-Man and Wasp, right? Who played Jimmy Woo? He's going to be here in this as well. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember seeing him in the trailer. And then.
Yeah, but there was something else I saw that actor in the other day. I feel like it was a trailer, but maybe it wasn't this one.
Yeah, and then you had mentioned earlier before we started recording that that people have been saying that was Monica Rambeau, laying on the grass in that one scene, and according to IMDb, that's Tiona Paris, who is playing Monica Rambeau, and then under that they have somebody listed as a tactical sword agent. So sword is the space version of SHIELD. Yeah. So that's something else that's being introduced here into the Marvel universe.
It looks like in the trailer she's getting thrown out of like a portal in the sky or something real quick, so that might tie in with that somehow.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit crammed in there. So
they said how many episodes this is supposed to be?
Let's see. It looks like 6. I'm seeing that yeah, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are both listed as 6 episodes, and nobody has more than 6 episodes, so not very long.
No, and I'm getting tired of this coming soon stuff too. Give me a date. Let me know when this is coming.
Before the end of 2020.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Yeah.
So is everything else.
This is supposed to be the only thing Marvel Cinematic Universe we get in 2020.
Oh boy.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be it, because I mean, New Mutants was considered, still the last Fox. So this will be the only thing we get.
Man, that's nuts.
That is crazy, considering there was usually 3 movies a year plus, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. plus, yeah. So, that's big slowdown there, but.
Oh yeah, well, slow down for everybody, but yeah.
No, looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be good. This, like you said, it's gonna be great to finally get something new on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I assume they're gonna wait till after Mandalorian finishes before this drops, which means it's gonna be.
Like December then.
Mid-November, December before it. We'll see it, because they want to keep some new content. So, and I wouldn't be surprised they didn't push it to the last week of December just to say they got it in 2020. So.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Mike commented on this again before recording, he said it, and I thought the exact same thing. Looking at that scene where a black and white with Paul Bettany sitting around the table, and we both thought, it's like, man, they got Willem Dafoe to to be in this, and it's like, nope.
He looks like a young Willem Dafoe.
Because he's DC Universe. He's in Scott's favorite movie.
That's right. So, hey, they got plenty of actors that are in both universes. So, that's not a big deal now. So, I guess I don't notice that any of these actors are in both universes though at the current time. So I think this one might be strictly Marvel. So
yeah,
but who knows? Well, you got anything else to add, Dan?
I think that's it. I think that's all we kind of had to say. All I had to say about that.
All right. Want to head over to Vigilante?
Yeah, which, by the way, you can read all of Vigilante on the DC Universe app. That's all on there if you want to play along at home.
Okay.
That alone might, just because we're reviewing this for this podcast and all my issues are in Utah, is enough reason for me to cancel my Comixology account and go to the DC Universe. And I did notice the use of the word infinite. That's not by accident. That's a DC name or DC word that they like to use.
Well, the other thing with that was, I don't think they're still doing it, but I feel like Marvel had a digital thing called Marvel Comics or Marvel Infinite Comics for a while, didn't they? I think they had a line of like digital exclusive books that were called Infinite Comics for a while.
Yeah, but I was heard it was Marvel Infinite. So yeah, it's not like they can completely own the word infinite. So
right. But again, I just thought that was weird, especially since previously Marvel had a thing called Digital Comics Unlimited years ago. I'm sure that rubbed some people the wrong way at DC. Having a Marvel DCU out there. Okay, so we're gonna look at Vigilante issues
12 to 16.
16 this time.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with Vigilante 12, and just to forewarn everybody, and it might be a blessing, not a curse, or everybody might be happy about this. I'm going to shorten up my summaries to be quite a bit shorter than what I've done previously, just so we got to get through this series. And
well, I think we got some more ground to cover this time too than usual.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So Vigilante 12, it's got a cover by Ross Andrew and Dick Giordano that kind of like looks like a horror comic cover with a skeletal hand reaching out of a book for Vigilante's throat. And when you read the book or read the issue, you kind of see that this is it's symbolizing the tone of the story. This is written by Marv Wolfman, but the pencils and inks are by Gil Kane. And this reminded me of just what I had been missing in previous issues, just how much of a master illustrator Gil Kane is. So The name of the story is Journal. The story shows an evolution in the title character. He hasn't slept for days, blaming himself for all of the death around him, his wife and kids and JJ. And he's not sleeping. In the first, maybe only action scene of the issue, while outside his trailer, he comes across a woman in torn clothing being chased and caught by four hoodlums, and learns that she has been beaten and raped by them a year ago. When Vigilante intervenes, she retrieves one of the pistols and has her retribution on all of the rapists and shoots them all. She basically says that she has no faith in the justice system. And I'm a little bit unclear as to whether this, I don't know if she's been raped once or twice, because when she's being chased through the woods, she's got clothes torn off of her. So it's like, according to what she said, that they did this a year ago, and now this is like some sort of happening again to her, which is really weird and unusual. But go ahead, Dan. You got any comments?
I thought the same thing. I kind of had to go through it again, and what it looks like is she was attacked a year ago. It was her word against theirs, and they went free. So now she is setting them up. She's put herself into this position again to get her revenge on these guys.
Oh,
and
that makes sense.
Like, they don't even realize it's the same woman or whatever.
Yeah.
She is setting them up to kill them. She is trying to, reenact this to a degree, the attack, so she can, kill them. But yeah, that took me a couple reads to kind of figure out what exactly was going on there. It's not as clear as it probably should have been.
Well, they weren't found innocent the time before. She didn't press charges the time before because she had a friend, and it was their word against hers, and he got the rapist got off. So she knew she didn't feel like, and that's kind of like the premise of this whole thing,
right?
Is that the justice system is failing,
right? And so again, she's sort of going by, what Vigilante does, going after criminals that kind of slip through the cracks of the justice system. Where you could say technically they didn't, but she kind of views it the same way.
Right. And there was really something to see how this had an effect, such a chilling effect on Vigilante. He's used to himself being the extreme person, and he's watching her pick up one of the pistols that one of the goons had dropped, and pretty much summarily offed every one of them. So you can tell by his the captions that he sees himself in the actions of the woman, and he's not liking what he sees. So in the next scene, it shows an embittered, laid-off steelworker testifying in his own defense at his murder trial. He and his co-workers blamed the Japanese for taking all of the steel business from America. When two Chinese men entered a bar where he and his buddies were hanging out, they mistook them as being Japanese, and they basically brutally murdered them. It doesn't show how they killed him, but it looks like they just beat him to death, from what you could gather. When the DA during this trial pointed out that the men were Japanese, or the men were Chinese, not Japanese, the man flippantly said, "Who knew? They all look alike anyway." And this comment, this really struck me for being in the 1980s, and with everything going on in the world now, it really had a resonance with me, how much this comment and the jury's acquittal of the man, which I didn't mention earlier, just revealed just how much of underlying racist beliefs there were in this case and in society in general. This guy and his buddies were all celebrating after the fact, and it was almost hit you over the head type. It wasn't really subtle, but no. I have to appreciate the message that Wolfman was sending here. What are you guys' thoughts about that segment of the story?
I thought it was interesting. I was interested too in what Chase's kind of takeaway at the end is, in saying that the man's not evil, he's just so stupid and ignorant.
Yeah.
Not necessarily saying there's anything, evil at the core of these guys. They're just maybe misled. But again, killing two people. It's pretty far, to go on that.
I said they're pretty evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely pretty evil. Yeah. But I can see, well, I didn't really say this at the beginning, but these are three little mini stories, three examples of what you would normally expect Vigilante to take his ultimate vengeance on all of these characters, but he sees another way. So that's the message. And this middle story, this little mini vignette, whatever, of the racist steelworker, it made sense until that last part. It made you worry. Well, I wonder what Wolfman is really thinking. Is he trying to somehow qualify the guy's actions somehow for speaking in Vigilante's voice, or what? But again, it was 1984, so.
Mike, help me remember, when was the Bernie Getz subway shootings? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Oh man, the subway shooting? You mean by the Guardians?
No, the vigilante Bernard Getz.
Bernard Getz. Yeah, I forget about the New York Guardians. Those, that was in there. That was about that time. Yeah.
See, I kind of feel like at this time there was like a feeling, maybe even across the country, that a lot of people that were guilty of crimes were getting away with it.
Yeah.
And I think now, there's a little bit of a pendulum swing in the country, where now we see a lot of people who were convicted of crimes are being released primarily because of like DNA evidence.
Right.
And changes to, the criminal justice system. But I think that was more the focus is there's all these people who need to be punished that have gotten away with something. And I think that's kind of what Wolfman was alluding to here.
Right.
So the Bernie Getz shooting was December 22nd, 1984. So it was after this came out, but
yeah,
there's a thinking,
Still, that was the attitude then, and that goes on into the 90s with the war on crime, the war on drugs, and lock everybody up, and anyway, that's
strikes you're out.
Yeah, right. That's what led to just a bursting at the seams prison system throughout the country. So anyway, after, that moves us into the third chapter of this book. Vigilante contemplates taking out the man. I'm sorry, that's the end of the second word. Vigilante did contemplate taking out this steel worker, but his torn conscience had stopped him. So in the last little mini morality tale, a sniper takes out a man on the street. The sniper is delusional, thinking that his wife ran off with all of his money and drug stash. Vigilante actually finds his wife's dead body in the bathroom, on the toilet, dead from an overdose, in that very same apartment. And I have to say, Gil Kane's art made it pretty clear that this body had been there just a little bit, and the writing indicated that there was a scent of decay and stuff. So anyway, Vigilante, instead of giving retribution, he offers the drug addict help, even though he had shot an innocent guy on the street just minutes before. So very interesting story. Vigilante realizes matters of revenge aren't as simple as what he assumed they'd be early in his career. It's not as black and white as that. And whether it's a rape victim or a racist murderer or a drug-addled sniper, Vigilante starts to see outcomes not as dire or final as those in his previous adventures as being possible. And my own commentary is this is my favorite issue so far in this series. This is pretty deep, and Gil Kane's art, aside from some coloring, which mentioned in this next issue too is a problem, the art's fantastic.
Yeah, I like this issue. I don't know what it was. When I was younger, I was not a fan of Gil Kane's work. It's sort of grown on me as I get older. I think when I was younger, I just saw the figures as stiff, maybe, and that sort of thing. But I've really come to appreciate his art style as I get older. So yeah, but again, I was seeing sort of hints of Gil Kane previously, in some of the issues, some of the staging and things like that the other artists were doing.
Right.
Well, Dan, I think you and I both had, we probably all, there was like I had the same issue with Kirby for a long time.
Yeah.
Whenever you see like a more anatomically correct artist drawing,
and
then you go back to Kirby, it can be jarring.
Yeah.
If you've gotten used to a certain particular art style, then you go, not to say back to Kane, because I think, Kane is a little bit more anatomically correct than what Kirby was.
Right. Well, I know guys that have the same issue with Tim Sale's work.
Yeah.
And he's super expressive, you know what I mean, work. And like, I know guys that hate it, but I love that stuff. I'll read that all day,
Mm-hmm. One thing I like about Kane is that in this issue, he showed the average citizen, average person looking realistic. I mean, you had a balding middle-aged man. You had a guy with a big old honking nose. I mean, it wasn't everybody looked the same. There was some individualism.
We had a few guys with honking noses in here.
Yeah, they did.
I wasn't sure if they were all supposed to be the same character or some kind of through line character or something. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just, me picking up on something that's not there.
Yeah. It was good stuff.
Yeah. And again, sort of a different, kind of format with the sort of anthology issue here.
Yep. Though I feel like maybe Wolfman could have saved himself some time and just written an op-ed piece, and been done with it.
I feel like there's probably some of that throughout this book, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The series.
So we transition to the next issue, Vigilante number 13. We're going from a cautionary tale maybe in 12 to a whodunit in 13. Another pretty good issue, I thought. It's another Wolfman Kane production. This time the cover's by Gil Kane, and the title of the story is Lock Room Murder. In the opening scene, the police arrive on a murder scene in a home with the victim clutching a handwritten note identifying his killer, his business partner Wilson. And if you've seen any kind of TV show or read any book, this is always like this isn't. Couldn't have been Wilson if the first scene there, the murder victim's identifying him as the murderer. So they do an autopsy on this guy. His name's Brent Locke, and the autopsy reveals that his death was caused by ingesting sulfuric acid, and that's bad stuff. That's battery acid.
Yeah.
And side note, my grandma used to tell me a story about a guy that did that back in the 30s, killed himself.
What?
Sulfuric acid, yeah. Anyway, that was a foreshadow of a prediction I was going to make throughout this. But anyway, and that, so also the autopsy revealed that Locke was terminal with cancer. So in a very brief and all too easy police investigation, all evidence points to Wilson, the partner, being the murderer of this guy Locke. Chase says, it's too pat.
I don't think they were following good procedures whenever they immediately take the note out of the dead man's hand and read.
Oh yeah, yeah. No pictures taken, no gloves on. No CSI. I mean, come on.
They got the budget for that, Mike. Come on.
Yeah. All you got to do is pay me for some consulting, and I will take care of all that. So we get the obligatory fight scene in the middle of this book, and some inner monologue, which really didn't make any sense to me. But I realized this was just filling some gaps to kind of put some space between the death of Wilson, Locke, and what's coming up next. So during after this little fight scene, we learn that Locke's widow Angela has been poisoned, but she's not yet dead, and this takes her off my suspect list, because at first I thought maybe she was the one behind it all.
Well, I do want to jump back to page 7 of this story for just a second.
Okay.
So this is the message for 2020. So you had the vigilante on his motorcycle. I rode on, listening to the police band as the wind whipped by me. I wished I wasn't wearing my mask. It was stifling hot, and it clung to my face in the most annoying way. If I were on speaking terms with guys like Batman, I'd ask them how they deal with mask rash.
Yeah, mask rash. Yeah. I know I was going to bring that up, but I was like, no, I'm going to keep it short. I could go on forever about selling crap like that.
That's the Batman mask thing came up at the DC fandom event. There were some shorts they did with Batman Beyond and Batman the Animated Series, where Terry, future Batman, is giving a hard time to 90s Batman about how his mask covers the wrong part of his face.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy part there. Yeah,
we can all relate to that this year.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. For once, the Shadow is in the he's the normal one, wearing the mask over his mouth. So anyway, at this point, this is before I read the rest of the book. I called it now that Locke's death was suicide and meant to set up his business partner and cheating wife. Now, does that make me Matlock? No, but I called it. So anyway, Wilson, when he finds out that Angela has died, now that's his, he and Angela have been having this affair. He freaks out and he takes off, flees in a commandeered plane because he and Locke owned some sort of I don't know, a tourist or whatever. He had a whole fleet of planes. He takes off in this plane, and Vigilante's able to grab onto a wheel and get up inside the cabin of the plane. And in a pretty protracted and seemingly unnecessary fight scene, I can't imagine any sense in this at all, but this is what happened. They are fighting and shooting and punching. I'm like, you punch this guy out, Chase. I hope you know how to fly this plane. But, even worse, Wilson actually gets knocked out of the plane. And, it turns out he has a parachute, but that doesn't really save him because Vigilante, he jumps out of the plane because it's burning. It's on fire. It's going to go down anyway. He jumps out of the plane and aims himself at Wilson, and Wilson starts shooting at him. Now, I don't know about you guys, but while I'm free falling in the sky, I'm just gonna curl up in a ball and just be ready to, meet my maker. But Vigilante shoots Wilson to stop, in self-defense, and then he grabs onto Wilson. He's able to pull off the chute and put it on him to save himself, which, okay, I guess that's because comics, right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop there if you guys have anything to comment on.
So, Vigilante doesn't have that big of a body count in this book. This seems like a unnecessary killing here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I realize Wilson was shooting at him. I get that. But again, he has those nunchucks. He has other weapons he could have thrown at him. And why not just grab onto his body?
Or shoot the gun out of his hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, come on. I feel like that's stretching it even more. Getting the gun out of his hand in free fall. But it seems like Wilson was innocent of this crime. Of the murder at least.
Yes.
Yeah, not the embezzlement or the cheating on the wife or cheating on his buddy.
Like, you kill somebody for that.
Yeah.
And ostensibly just to save yourself. When you've put yourself in this situation, he hung on to that plane wing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He could have hunted down Wilson when he landed.
He could have slapped some sort of GPS. Well, they didn't have that back then, but it had a lot of other options. It wasn't, even for comic books, it wasn't really all that believable. But really, I think to meet the reason for the story, you had to have all three of the main characters die for this message to be sent. You had Locke, and then you had his wife, and she died, as we find out. And I still don't know how Vigilante had sussed this out, but in the narrative, he pretty much tells us that Locke did kill himself drinking the sulfuric acid, but before he did, he had laced the salt shaker with whatever sulfuric something that when mixed with water will become sulfuric acid. So his widow Angela had just salted up some in an earlier scene, which I had to go back and read this to see that it made sense, but she had salted down a meal, and then she asked for a glass of water from Wilson and made the concoction that basically killed her. And then what Locke wanted was Wilson to feel guilty by all this, paying for his crimes. But of course, what Locke couldn't predict is that Wilson died too. So this was a crazy story, I have to say. There was the coloring in both of these issues. I'm like, where was the colorist? And maybe it's just the digital version, but nowhere did they color the RV. There was a lot of areas that were just plain black and white, and I don't know what's going on, but it took me out of the story on this one especially. And like I said, I'm reading it from Comixology, so maybe there's some coloring issues.
You talking about like the backgrounds of the plane?
Yeah, it just seemed there was maybe, I don't know, it just I don't have the actual physical copy, so maybe there's more coloring there.
In mind, I wonder if that's not translating well to a backlit screen. You know,
no, that's much more colored. That is way more colored than what I've seen.
I'm gonna bet it's getting washed out.
Yeah. Well, Scott's showing me the physical copy, and if I showed you what was on my digital copy, you'd be like, "What the heck?" It's like nobody colored part of these panels.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's all colored where it's not in the digital.
Weird.
There's a lesson for you. Stick with the physical copy if possible.
That's right. I did like how the story ends with the policeman shaking their fist at Vigilante as he gets away. Nice. Old school action there at the end.
Yeah.
14?
Right.
All right, so issue 14, again, written by Marv Wolfman, this time with art by Trevor Von Eden. If you go back to the Campus Comic Cast previous podcast, we have an interview with Trevor Von Eden.
Episode 29.
Thank you.
I looked it up for this.
This one, just a forewarning, you got to pay very close attention to a couple of names because you have a Hammer and a Hamette. So the story starts where we're following this shadowy figure as he makes his way into an office building. The figure is detected by the security guards on staff, and he manages to basically trash some of the premises before the police arrive. When the police arrive, this shadowy figure shoots a couple of them, I believe killing one and maybe injuring another one. I can't remember exactly what happens there. But then we segue over to Vigilante atop a roof, being again a little bit melancholy because he hasn't slept in a while. He's struggling with life in general, still having the nightmares. So he got his whole judgeship thing when he hears over the radio about this break-in occurring. So for some reason, en route to investigate the break-in, this shadowy figure knocks him off his bike. And it's not like he wanted the bike or anything, because they exchange a couple of blows and then the shadowy figure runs off. So after that, we meet Mr. Hammer, who is the owner of Hammer Industries, who's, apparently a relatively ruthless individual demanding, increased growth for his company. Hammer discusses with Mariette, who is his assistant, about his longtime rival from childhood, and that now he has the upper hand in their long-term rivalry because of this shadowy costume that he shows to Mariette. Meanwhile, Chase is dealing with the press about his potential judgeship appointments, and Marcia, and I'm assuming is it Allen? Is Judge Allen the other judge in this story?
Yes.
So.
Okay. So Judge Allen, I'm assuming this is. Notice that Adrian is not quite, normal, I guess. He just seems off. So Adrian finally goes to attempt to track down Teresa, his other assistant from the early issues, and learns that she has moved to California, and that happened a couple of weeks ago. So he's gone an extended period of time without speaking to her. So back over at Hamette Industries, we have Captain Hall, who I don't think showed up for a couple of issues here, is asking Carl Hammett if he knows who trashed his place. And the Vigilante is basically, wiretapping in. And after Captain Hall leaves, Captain Hammett makes a phone call, which Vigilante is able to hear and determines that Hammett actually did know who trashed his place. So Vigilante goes to Hammer Industries to talk to Hammer and tells him he knows that he attacked Hammett Industries. And what happened is we eventually find out that these two are brothers, and one of them just changed one letter of their last name to give it more, tougher sounding, I guess. So Hammer attempts to basically eases Vigilante's suspicions, but then knocks him out. So Vigilante gets awoken by Mariette, and then he follows a trail back to Hammett Industry, where the two brothers actually are confronting each other. Okay, I gotta get this right. Hammett is about to push a button when Vigilante arrives and starts to fight Hammer. So Hammett never pushes the button. After an extended scuffle, the Vigilante basically kills Hammer with a shot to the head. And then in the epilogue, or basically the epilogue for the story, we learn that Hammett is the Respawn who's responsible for getting that shadow costume to Hammer. And in addition to providing the costume, it was also basically rigged to make him crazy. But Hammett, who's telling all this to Mariette, can't have any witnesses, so Hammett kills Mariette. So, because he can't keep a secret with two people. And that kind of wraps up issue 14.
And I'm glad you had this one and not me.
Yeah, I had to go through that a few times.
Yeah,
I had to too. I kept having to go back and, okay, what's going on here? Why did this shadow attack Vigilante on his motorcycle? How did Vigilante get involved in this even? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of backtracking on this issue.
Yeah, I was glad they drew in the white patch of hair,
right,
on one of the brothers to help differentiate.
And the other thing is, Hammer Industries and Iron Man was before this, right? This was established by that point in Iron Man, right?
I don't remember when Justin Hammer first showed up. I know the Ironmonger didn't show up until Iron Man 200, which wasn't until it would have been after this.
Right.
But I thought that same thing. I never ever did go look that up. So let's see here. That's Marvel Cinematic. That's not what we want. We want. I don't know if that's the
Iron Man 120, March 1979.
Okay, so it did predate this by quite a bit. So
yeah, that's a few years before this.
But it's kind of a generic name, so it's not like you can really take ownership of the word Hammer. So
right. Well, Hammer Industries.
So, yeah, that's true.
I feel like that's pretty close. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's an easy. Just change the name.
Yeah.
At that point, just get something else.
Well,
say their name was Trump and he changed it to Trump or something like that. Something believable. So,
I'm assuming we're going to see this character again in the future because we still have the button push. That we don't know what's going on with the button.
I'm fine if this is all we get.
Yeah, I think I am too. But I feel like
I'm learning Vigilante needs a better rogues gallery as we go through this.
I mean, you don't think the Electrocutioner is a?
Oh boy, we're getting plenty of him in this, aren't we?
Yeah, I think next one. So I don't know. Mike, do you have anything else in 14?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so we get issue 15 again, written by Marv Wolfman, penciled by Paris Cullins. All right, and we have this clown cover. We start off the story with this clown, performing at a circus. I guess you're supposed to think, with the danger stuff that maybe he's about ready to become a supervillain, but it is actually taking place at a circus where Marcia and Adrian Chase are attending. But we learned that this clown, his wife is having some very serious medical issues, and he cannot afford this needed operation. So we transition back over to Chase's place, and we find that the Electrocutioner is outside of Chase's home, but he's not there for Chase. He's there for a place that is across the street from Chase's home that is apparently the site of a child pornography ring. And you would kind of maybe wonder why Chase didn't realize that, supposedly being in tune with, crime and such. So we transition back to the clown. And his name is Weston, Mr. Weston is how I'll refer to him. He learns that his wife is going to have to be put into basically a state nursing home because he can't afford her care at the hospital, and the hospital is full, and there's lots of paying patients who, are looking for the space. Back over to the electrocutioner, who is basically busted into to the ring here. I think I skipped a line here on my notes. Yeah, so he's basically executing the head of the ring. Chase, who is showing Marcia out of his apartment, hears some noises and stuff coming from across the street, and then changes into costume and goes into this building and discovers the electrocutioner. And when Vigilante shows up, the electrocutioner picks up one of the 16-year-old girls and begins to threaten her. So even though, Chase is arguing she's not guilty of anything, she was manipulated, it was the other guys. So to get away, electrocutioner throws the girl off the side of the building. Vigilante, saves the girl, but in this course of this, the electrocutioner actually escapes. So we jump back to the clown, and he's decided that to make the money for his wife's operation, that he is going to rob a bank. So, and he's actually successful, but as he is attempting to leave, one of the guards shoots him in the leg, and we learned that the gun was actually a toy gun. Fast forward.
The gun that the clown robbed the bank with.
Yes, the gun that was a toy gun. Thank you. Fast forward, what would have to be weeks or months to the trial of the clown, and the clown is actually freed because of his story, that he was just doing it to get money for his wife, and there's this incredible outpouring for the clown, and they basically find him not guilty, which I don't know. As bad as the system was, the criminal justice system may have been, I don't think it would ever been at this point where they're not going to let somebody,
No.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
But I think it's kind of to a little bit of an extreme, right? Okay. So, but anyway, so Chase and Marcia and Judge Allen are having a discussion about the extenuating circumstances. So, moving forward, Vigilante is now staking out the clown circus because he thinks, electrocutioner is going to see that this guy got off and is going to try to kill him. So the clown, after basically giving the performance of his life, and the crowd is basically there to see him and support him, as he's heading backstage, gets confronted by the electrocutioner. He runs back into the ring, and Vigilante swoops in and basically fights the electrocutioner for several panels. But then, as the electrocutioner attempts to go back after the clown's friends, the other clowns, step in, and they're actually able to save Weston, and although the electrocutioner gets away. So, send in the clowns. Anything else you guys want to point out in 15?
I just had a couple things I wanted to bring up kind of real quick. The first thing with the toy gun used in the robbery, that was a thing. Back in the day that happened. I know growing up, I had some pretty realistic looking toy submachine guns.
You mean they didn't have an orange tip on the end?
That's why we have that now, though, is because of this sort of thing. So if growing up, you were like, why does my gun have an orange tip on it? This is why. You
couldn't get black paint and repaint that.
Yeah, or you couldn't just break it off.
Yeah, there you go.
The other thing, just in general, is like Vigilante is such an indictment of the criminal justice system. I don't know if we've got time to go into an indictment of the healthcare system. That feels like a whole other thing.
Yes.
So it seems like a lot of ground to cover in Vigilante too. And right. I thought just, in 2020, this is almost sort of the opposite of the Joaquin Phoenix Joker story, the movie.
Yeah. I
feel like it's sort of an odd counterpoint to that. And again, it's not intentional. It's just kind of looking back at it now.
Oh, true.
Sort of thing. Where this clown still kind of becomes this hero to the people, but, as an actual good guy this time, not as, a maniac.
Sure. All right. 16?
Yep.
All right, so now this issue is not written by Marv Wolfman. This is written by Paul Cooperberg, and I believe this is the first Vigilante story not written by Marv Wolfman.
It is.
I think so.
And with art by Alex Saviuk, who we also interviewed in a past episode of the Campus Comics Cast whenever he was at Metropolis.
Yeah.
So
I'm way more familiar with his Spider-Man work than.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the character Tombstone, then that was Alex Saviuk. All right, so this issue begins, and this one I have a very short synopsis on. We have a train, a subway going through New York, all right, and it suddenly stops. So that stopping results in a robbery of everybody who's inside of the train car. So next, we that's just a one page. So we jump over to Vigilante. Vigilante is basically trying to track down the electrocutioner. He's still trying to follow those leads. So we go back to the trains the next morning, and same thing happens. These trains suddenly stop, but this time Marcia and I guess it's Alan, Judge Alan. I don't know if they keep changing his hairstyle or if it's just a different individual. I'm not really for sure. I was actually looking for his name and I don't see it. But so Marcia's with somebody. And once again, this train car is robbed, and it's the same individual as the evening before, but this time Marcia decides to resist, and well, she gets basically beaten up. As the robber is leaving the train cars, we see that it's not just a single car that's being robbed, but it's all the cars on this train line. So this is actually a concerted effort. And we learned that basically these thieves are working for somebody who had experience at the transit authority and knows about the schedules and knows about the tunnels and everything that's going on basically in the subway system. So Chase keeps an eye out for another robbery. Oh, let's see here. I think I skipped again on my notes here. No. Okay. So we get some information from, Chase goes to the hospital to see Marcia. Of course, now it's personal. So there's we get the backstory about the guy who's worked for the transit authority. So Chase has decided that, hey, they're probably going to go after, something a little bit bigger than what they've gone through before. But Chase keeps an eye out for another robbery. Detects the stop train. He arrives at the end of the robbery to see them escaping down a side tunnel and then onto another train. All the robbers except for one are able to get off the train. Chase ends up trapped on the train and it's set to collide. Somehow Chase survives the crash, but his guy he was keeping around as a witness does not. So Chase then decides, okay, this is where they're out to get some bigger score. So basically the trains run in the evening and they take all the collection money back using the trains. So on a hunch, he rides along with this nightly collection run. And of course, they try to stop the train. Chase is able to get the train stopped prior to and take out the thieves. And that kind of wraps it up. So again, not a whole lot going on. It really was definitely just a filler issue between, the end of Wolfman's run and to set us up for the next two issues where we get Alan Moore on the book for a couple of issues.
Yeah, that's the way I looked at this issue, Scott, was it was a filler issue. Other than the continuing theme of him saying that eventually or soon he'll have to make a decision on whether to be a judge or continue being vigilante.
Right. Yeah.
That was the only thread that seems to be maintained.
Yeah, I kind of feel we're treading water here through these issues we're talking about here this time. It just, he's going to be a judge soon. He's going to have to get this up. We don't know who the new writer is yet. We got to try to keep it going for a little bit. So, I think we got some good stuff out of here, especially issue 12. But yeah, it does feel like we're just kind of waiting this out a little bit over the course of these books.
Yeah. So far, it's been worthwhile, though. I'm enjoying going through this entire series, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I enjoyed these, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I actually enjoyed more than I think most of the rest of the series. 15, not so much. I feel like it's starting to head into a little bit better direction. As silly as some of it has been, especially, 36 years later or whatever it is, it feels silly. But again, it's just been better.
I feel like that's going to be the case for anything, though, when you have that much distance between it,
Especially something that's trying to do with social commentary.
Yeah.
Right. It just magnifies it.
Yeah. And then, again, not this book, but we still had the Comics Code Authority back then. You know what I mean? That's kind of, when we kind of beginning the direct market, things like that. So.
And I don't normally read the letter columns, but in one of those issues, Wolfman addresses that. And he's like, some reader says, hey, what if this book falls into the hands of children? And he's like, it doesn't have the Comics Code Authority on it, and it's no worse than what they're going to see on Hill Street Blues, is basically what he said.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is interesting, though, you know, we've kind of gotten rid of his supporting cast, though, you know, with his, you know, JJ and that, you know, even though we keep, you know, hearing about them, you know, it really was sort of a, you know, when we had everything set up at the beginning with the RV and the motorcycle and the team, it really felt like an 80s, you know, kind of action series, you know, TV show, you know, so and it looks like we're kind of getting away from that now. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here.
And especially with the new writer.
See what the ultimate fate of Terry is, his other partner, because it was her exit was sort of, I don't know, anticlimactic.
For sure. Yeah, she's just gone, you know.
Now the two Alan Moore issues, I realized I'd actually read these before, which we'll talk about next time, but because they were included in an anthology of Alan Moore's non-Swamp Thing stuff.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, like the other DC work of Alan Moore or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, do we have anything else to say about Vigilante here this time?
I think that's it for me.
Got a lot of Vigilante this time.
Yeah.
I'm all Vigilante'd out.
Right. All right. Well, we just want to remind everybody too, this Saturday, we're doing the next mini-con. We're gonna have Scott's gonna be there. Mike will be there if he's not golfing. I'll be there. You know, should be having a good time. We had a really good turnout last time. Get there early. You know, I know it's a Saturday. It's getting nice out. But, you know, if you want the deals, get out there before everybody else, because, you know, we'll have guys come in and just swoop stuff up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's truth, because somebody came and bought everything one guy had before we even officially started. So
yeah, so again, that's this Saturday at Campus Comics, and we are located at 816 East Main Street, Suite B in Carbondale. Phone number is 618-457-6011, or you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. Scott, where can everybody find you?
burgcomics.com, burgcomics.com, and this Saturday at Campus Comics.
And Mike, what about you?
Mike Atchison 5 on Twitter, and this Saturday at Campus Comics. Right.
And this is Dan, and again, you can find me online at Detective651 on Twitter, Instagram, and my TeePublic store. And as most Saturdays, this Saturday I will be at Campus Comics for the sale. So we hope to see you there.
Everybody lock up their animals.